черешеньку на дворі, там, де стояв із милою до зорі. Черешенька ще, хой! Черешенька прийметься, а милая за другими дивиться. Черешенька ще, хой! Черешенька прийметься, а милая за другими дивиться. Ой, ходив він із милою в лісочок, виплітав її з фіалок віночок. А тепер куди піду, лиш із верби лист найду, і ще її я любити не буду. А тепер куди піду, лиш із верби лист найду, і ще її я любити не буду. Під небо сизий сокіл літає, вже 3 рочки, як милої немає. Ой, дівчино, перебач, я сміюся, а ти плач, як постелиш, так ся виспиш, говорять. Ой, дівчино, перебач, я сміюся, а ти плач, як постелиш, так ся виспиш, говорять. Ой, дівчино, перебач, я сміюся, а ти плач, як постелиш, так ся виспиш, говорять. Ой, дівчино, перебач, я сміюся, а ти плач, як постелиш, так ся виспиш, говорять. Як постелиш, так ся виспиш, говорять.
And the Euphoria Band from Edmonton, from their new CD they released, going on a couple of years now. And that song was Черешенька, the cherry tree. Добрий вечір, шановні радіослухачі, та вітаю вас всіх на радіопередачу «Наш Holos» радіо українського коріння, котра подається вам на багатомовній радіостанції AM 1320 CHMB у місті Ванкувері і по мережі PCJ Радіо Міжнародному. При мікрофоні Половина Макорі, дякую, що рішили перебути зі мною наступну годину. Hello there and welcome to Nash Holos Ukrainian Roots Radio here on AM 1320 CHMB Vancouver and in international syndication on PCJ Radio International. I'm your host, Paulette Demchik-McQuarrie, Pukadienske Pavlina, and I am delighted to have you with me. We've got a great program lined up for you. We've got Ukrainian Jewish Heritage in part 2 in our series on banknotes of Israel and Ukraine featuring prominent Jewish Ukrainians. As well, we have an interview with Jean Berezovski and a bit of an announcement about something coming up on a regular basis here on the show. So stay tuned for that. Jean Berezovski is with Ukraine War Amps, based out of Toronto. As well, we've got our usual proverb of the week, other items of interest, and great Ukrainian music. And we started out with a song about a cherry tree. They're in bloom, of course, all over the West Coast here. And so here is another song about cherry trees and blossoms and very seasonal. Dunai from Toronto with a song about a budding romance under the cherry tree. Oi pidvishneyu.
Ой, під вишнею, під черешнею, стоя старі з молодою, як із ягодою, стоя старі з молодою, як із ягодою, і просилася, і молилася, пусти ж мене, старий діду, на вулицю погуляй, пусти Для мене старий діду на вулицю погуляй. Ой, я сам не піду і тебе не пущу. Хочеш мене старенько, та й покинуть на біду. Хочеш мене старенько, та й покинуть на біду. Ой, не кидай мене, моя голубочко, куплю тобі хатку і ще сніжатку. І з того гімнок ще й вишневенький садок. І з того гімнок ще й вишневенький садок. Ой, не хочу хатки, ані сіножатки, ні ставка, ні млинка, ні вишневого садка, ні ставка, ні млинка, ні вишневого садка. Ой, під вишнею, під черешнею, стоя старий з молодою. Як із ягодою, стоя старий з молодою, як із ягодою.
Thanks to the foresight and generosity of its donors, the Shevchenko Foundation has been investing in the future of the Ukrainian Canadian community for over 50 years. Since 1963, the Shevchenko Foundation has been funding initiatives that strengthen our Ukrainian Canadian identity and enhance our Ukrainian Canadian cultural heritage. These include fine and performing arts and arts groups, museums, cultural centers, education, as well as authors, journalists, and the Ukrainian Canadian media, including this program. The foundation strives to become the premier not-for-profit foundation in Canada, which acknowledges the Ukrainian Canadian community as a fundamental component of Canadian society. Nash Holos listeners are encouraged to support this vision through continued donations into the future. To apply for grants, make a donation, or for more information, visit shevchenkofoundation.com.
Щоб було з ким літати, ой, я вельо, було з ким літати, ой, я вельо, ой, я вельо. Скакав воробейко, як було тепленько, ой, як було тепленько. Як мороз притиснув, воробей не писнув, ой, воробей не писнув. А коробейка, жита коробейка, ой, жита коробейка. Нема кому їсти, жінка маленька, ой, жінка маленька. Ой, у лісі на горі Зозоля завес, зозоля завес, а що тобі, козаченьку, вечеря закисла, вечеря закисла, ой, у лісі на горісі, стукала сорока, стукала сорока, що в Івана одна дочка, дай свою мораль за ліса, не воюй, вечелено, не води дівок утано, ай за ліса зеленого чорна хмара виступає, ягодка у бору росла, я молода замошко. Чорна хмара, не воюй, вичай високо, не води дівок утано. Чорна хмара виступає, дробний дощик накрапає, ягодка у бору росла, я молода замошко. Ходімте, дівчата, дітки молодиці, і дітки молоді, будемо скакати, зиму проводжати, зиму проводжати, йди зимо, дай до Тульчина, бо ти вже ж нам надокучила,
A popular Ukrainian singer by the name of Mariana Sadovska with a cycle of spring calling songs from Polisia. Up next, Pikaridiska Tercia, a fabulous a cappella group, one of my favorites from Ukraine. Here they are with a song about one of my favorite cities in Ukraine, Lviv.
Серце стискає в грудях, в пошуках твоїх снів, про місто людей веселих і співучих, і добрих слів, в ратуші леви камінні, варту при брамі несуть, знають вони, що незмінні, юні мрії цвіт буску.
Тихих садів чути цей спів, хочеш юності, їдь до Львова. Тут ти знайдеш так багато оказій, до втіхи, до ласк, до безмежних фантазій. Стільки є міст, як в небі звіст, я згадаю цю пісню до слова. Світом блукай, свою талю шукай, хочеш юності, їдь до Львова.
Камінні, варту при брамі несуть, знають вони, що незмінні, юні мрії цвіт буску.
Пісня дзвенить, серце щемить, хочеш щастя, тоді їдь до Львова. Тут ти знайдеш так багато оказій, до втіхи, до ласк, до безмежних фантазій. Стільки є міст, як в небі звіст, срібло років на скронях і Де хочеш йди, і як знаєш роби, та за щастям їдь лиш до Львова. Стільки є міст, як леві звіст, срібло років на скронях і бровах. Де хочеш йди, і як знаєш роби, та за щастям їдь лиш до Львова. Де хочеш йди, і як знаєш роби, та за щастям їдь лиш до Львова.
And now for a look at Ukraine's rich Jewish heritage, then and now, brought to you by the Ukrainian Jewish Encounter based in Toronto, Ontario. The State of Israel was created and built by Jewish settlers who came mainly from Eastern Europe. Among them were quite a few natives of Ukraine, then ruled by the Russian and Austro-Hungarian empires. Today's episode of Ukrainian Jewish Heritage, part 2 of our series on the currencies of Ukraine and Israel, features Jews from Ukrainian territories who were awarded one of Israel's highest honors, their portraits depicted on banknotes and coins. As we learned in part 1 of our series, Israel's currency underwent several changes, from the Palestine pound in 1948 to the Israeli pound, or the Israeli lira, in 1952, to the shekel in 1980, and finally, in 1986, the Israeli new shekel, which remains Israel's official monetary unit today. 8 natives of Ukraine have figured prominently on Israel's currencies over the years. The poet Chaim Nahman Bialik was born in 1873 in the village of Ivnitsia, in what is today the Zhytomyr Oblast, or province. Bialik is considered one of the pioneers of modern Hebrew poetry. His life coincided with the restoration of this ancient language, long considered a bookish dead language. He also wrote prolifically in Yiddish. Bialik spent his childhood and youth in Zhytomyr. He received a traditional Jewish education, but also explored European literature. At age 18, he left for Odessa, where he studied literature as well as the Russian and German languages. He made his living teaching Hebrew until he secured a permanent teaching position. Eventually, he made his way into Jewish literary circles and became a member of the Zionist movement. Bialik began his prolific literary career writing about the plight of Jews facing anti-Semitic violence in Imperial Russia. He went on to become a highly acclaimed poet, as well as a literary editor, translator, and publisher. In 1921, as a result of mounting paranoia in the wake of the Bolshevik Revolution, the Soviet government closed the publishing house he helped establish in Odessa. That year, Bialik and other Hebrew writers left the Soviet Union and settled in Palestine. Although he died in 1934, before Israel became a state, Bialik ultimately came to be recognized as Israel's national poet. Bialik has influenced entire generations of Zionists, including tens of thousands who were exposed to his poetry as part of the Israeli school curriculum. He wrote Hebrew poetry at a time when it was far from clear that Hebrew would become the spoken language of the Jewish community in Israel. Chaim Nahman Bialik's portrait was featured on the 1968 10-pound banknote. At the beginning of the 20th century, Volodymyr Jabotinsky gained renown as a talented journalist and writer. He was born in Odessa in 1880. In 1903, a new wave of anti-Jewish pogroms erupted in the southern part of the Russian Empire, and Jabotinsky joined the Jewish self-defense and Zionist movements. Around this time, he began learning modern Hebrew and took the name Zev, which means wolf. At an early age, he began to devote his outstanding skills as a writer, orator, translator, and polemicist for the Zionist cause. Jabotinsky was a contemporary of Bialik, whose poems he translated from Hebrew into Russian. Jabotinsky also published the first Hebrew translation of Edgar Allan Poe's poems The Raven and Annabel Lee, among other literary works. In Ukraine, Jabotinsky is remembered for his friendly attitude towards the Ukrainian political movement of his day, and, in particular, the Ukrainian language. As well, Jabotinsky expressed support for Simon Petlura, who he did not believe was an anti-Semite or perpetrator of pogroms. Petlura was Ukraine's revolutionary president during the country's short-lived sovereignty from 1918 to 1921. The revival of modern Hebrew, social justice, and democracy are all values that Jabotinsky fought for. His lasting legacy can also be found in Israeli politics. Structures that were created under the influence of Jabotinsky's ideas, like the Betar Youth Movement and the Likud Party, still exist in Israel to this day. Jabotinsky did not live to see the founding of the independent Jewish state. While visiting a Betar defense camp in New York in August of 1940, he suffered a fatal heart attack. In 1964, Prime Minister Levi Eshkol had Jabotinsky's remains transferred to Israel's National Cemetery on Mount Herzl, where a state memorial service is held every year at the Ze'ev Jabotinsky tomb. Ze'ev Jabotinsky was depicted on the 1980 100-shekel banknote. Levi Eshkol, the third Prime Minister of Israel, was born Levi Yitzhak Shkolnik in 1895 in the shtetl of Oratov in what is now the Vinnytsia Oblast in Ukraine. After completing his education in Vilnius, at age 18, Eshkol emigrated to Palestine. During the First World War, he fought in the ranks of the Jewish Legion of the British Army, which Jabotinsky had helped form. In the State of Israel, Levi Eshkol was elected to the Second Knesset in 1951, and soon thereafter was appointed to key government roles. A founder of the Israeli Labor Party, he served in numerous senior roles, including Minister of Defense and Minister of Finance. In 1963, he replaced the legendary David Ben-Gurion as Prime Minister. Under Eshkol's leadership, Israel built from scratch 22 cities, more than 200 farming communities, hundreds of factories, and thousands of schools, as well as hospitals, universities, roads, seaports, power stations, and a national water carrier, all while feeding, housing, employing, and schooling more than 1 million new immigrants. Eshkol ended the monopoly of Ben-Gurion's state broadcaster Israel Radio and created an independent broadcast authority modeled on the BBC. He was also the man who built the army that won the Six-Day War, one of military history's most stunning victories. He was the first Israeli leader to be formally invited to the White House. He was also the first Israeli prime minister to die in office. He died in 1969 of a heart attack. In 1984, Eshkol's image was chosen for the 5,000 shekel bill. It was replaced in 1985 by the 5 new Israeli shekel bill. Since 1990, his image is found on a limited, yet circulated minting of the 5 new Israeli shekel coin that replaced the bill. Golda Meir, the most famous female politician in Israel, was born Golda Mabovich in Kyiv in 1898. The future Israeli prime minister's early memories were not pleasant. Her first memory was of a pogrom, which thankfully did not take place. But the panic in her family home and the sounds and sights of anti-Semitic hostility in the streets left a lasting and bitter memory. Hunger and poverty also left their mark. In 1906, the family emigrated to the United States. Golda Meir never stepped foot in Kyiv again. Unlike Jabotinsky, Meir considered Simon Petlura the main culprit behind the anti-Jewish pogroms in 1918 to 1920 in Ukraine, which she mentions in her autobiography, My Life. Golda was educated in the United States, became a teacher, and married an American, Morris Meyerson. The couple emigrated to Palestine in 1921 and joined a kibbutz. In 1956, she became foreign minister under Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion. Upon her appointment, she shortened Meyerson to Meir, which means illuminate in Hebrew. In 1969, Golda Meir was elected Prime Minister of Israel. She was one of 24 signatories, of which 2 were women, of the Israeli Declaration of Independence on May 14, 1948. The 10-shekel note issued in 1985 featured a portrait of Golda Meir. It was removed from circulation in the 1990s. Meir was also featured on the 10,000-pound old shekel note prior to their replacement by the new shekel in 1980. 4 other natives of Ukraine who have appeared on Israeli currency are Israel's second Prime Minister, Israel's second President, the first Hebrew-language writer to receive the Nobel Prize in Literature, and another contemporary of Bialik and literary powerhouse whose recognition on Israel's currency caused considerable controversy. Join us to hear their stories in the next episode of Ukrainian Jewish Heritage, Part 3 of this series on the currencies of Israel and Ukraine. In Part 4, prominent Jewish figures on the currencies of Ukraine. I'm Pavlina, producer and host of Nash Holos Ukrainian Roots Radio. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Ukrainian Jewish Heritage. Until next time, Shalom. Ukrainian Jewish Heritage is brought to you by the Ukrainian Jewish Encounter based in Toronto, Ontario. To find out more about their work, visit their website and follow them on Facebook and Twitter. Transcripts and audio files of this and earlier broadcasts of Ukrainian Jewish Heritage are available at their website, ukrainianjewishencounter.org, as well as at the Nash Holos website, www.nashholos.com.
Підем разом по барвінок, я прийшов, тебе нема, підманула, підвела. Ти ж мене підманула, ти ж мене підвела, ти ж мене молодого цума розуму звела. Ти ж мене підманула, ти ж мене підвела, ти ж мене молодого цума розуму звела.
En vertieten auf mein Kasche, wo's mein Bruder, wo's a Brasche, skate bei in der Traktor wie a Bahn. Die Mummeleie bei der Kusilke, Wähler bei der Mole Tilke, in Jankoje, Jan, Jan, Jan. Hey Jan, Jankoje, hey Jan, Billy, hey Jankoje, hey Jankoje, Jan, Jan, Jan. Hey Jan, Jankoje, hey Jan, Billy, hey Jankoje, hey Jankoje, Jan, Jan, Jan.
Ти казала у суботу, підем разом на роботу, я прийшов, тебе нема, підманула, підвела. Ти ж мене підманула, ти ж мене підвела, ти ж мене молодого цума розуму звела. Ти ж мене підманула, ти ж мене підвела, ти ж мене молодого цума розуму звела. Ти ж мене підманула, ти ж мене підвела, ти ж мене молодого цума розуму звела. Ти ж мене підманула, ти ж мене підвела, ти ж мене молодого цума розуму звела.
And a medley of 2 folk songs, one Yiddish, one Ukrainian, performed by a group from right here in Vancouver, Tum Balalaika, and that medley was Jankuya the Yiddish song about a Crimean farm song extolling the virtues of work we do with our hands, and Ukrainian, of course, Pid Manula, that joking song about a woman who always leads men astray. And the musicians performing that song were Wendy Bross-Stewart on piano, Claire Klein-Osipov was the soprano, and Vanya Soychuk the baritone, performing that medley of Jankuya and Pid Manula.
This is CHMB, AM 1320, Vancouver.
чорній дірі плете павучок намисто, на сірій стіні плете павучок намисто, життя усе плете павучок намисто, і життя своє лай, ла-ла-ла-лай, ла-лай, лай. Темному місті сонце живе, живе на стіні у намисті, яке павучок плете, плете павучок намисто, життя усе плете павучок намисто, і життя своє лай, ла-ла-ла-лай, ла-лай, лай. Ла-ла-ла-лай, ла-лай, лай. Темному місті, у чорній дірі доплів павучок намисто і впав зі стіни. Плів павучок намисто, життя усе доплів павучок намисто, і життя своє лай, ла-ла-ла-лай, ла-лай, лай.
And a group from Ukraine called Hrushchi, and a song called Pavuchok, song about a spider. And up next is Ukraine's 2020 entry into the Eurovision contest, which I'm not sure if it's going to be taking place, or if it is, it'll be a little bit different from the usual. I guess we'll find out when the time draws nearer, but meanwhile, here is Go A with their live performance in the semifinals that got them into the finals. And here they are with Solove, Nightingale.
Заплетала
Gene Berezovski is one of the founders of Ukraine War Amps, and he's no stranger to Nash Holos. Ukraine War Amps is doing amazing work to support Ukrainian veterans wounded in the war that Russia is waging on Ukraine. As well, they support the families of the fallen heroes. Gene has shared a few stories of these courageous people over the past few years, and it looks like this war isn't about to end soon thanks to the fierce spirit of these incredible Ukrainian patriots and defenders of freedom. Their stories are inspiring and uplifting, and I'm so honored to announce that Gene has agreed to share them with us on a regular basis. And Gene joins me now by phone from Toronto. Thank you for joining us, Gene, and thanks for agreeing to do this project.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, we've spoken over the years since you started, 5 years now. You've passed your 5-year anniversary, as of course has the war. We're into the 6th year of the war.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. And so just tell us a little bit about War Amps, Ukraine War Amps, for those who haven't been listening to the show or new to the show and are not familiar with Ukraine War Amps. You founded this as a Canadian initiative that you founded with a beneficiary.
John Broderick, yeah.
Right, and he was a beneficiary of Canadian War Amps.
Well, yeah, we founded it in 2014 in July, myself and John Broderick of Toronto. And our beneficiaries mostly maimed and injured Ukrainian veterans, kids of war, and families who lost their breadwinner in the war.
And what you do is you're a nonprofit organization, so people can make donations, and not just a donation, but that you've got an Adopt a Soldier program where people actually make a connection with these people. So it's not just throwing money into a pot and having somebody else help, but people can actually connect. You can learn about what's going on and connect with real people and see where their donation is going, how it's helping people on the other side of the world, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly the main source of motivation for the giver, because they know their money going to be well spent and much needed.
Yes, and all proceeds go to the veterans. You're doing this as a volunteer.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Gene, the world right now is plunged into a lockdown. There's a pandemic going on, the COVID-19. We're all stuck at home. Most of us, except for the people that are, essential services, keeping us from starving to death and keeping all of our utilities going. But there is no lockdown at the Ukrainian front, is there, for the soldiers?
No, there is. In fact, we actually need more support during this challenging time, because people we are helping to, they are at risk. Those are injured, those are sick, and they are at higher risk during these pandemic times.
So have you got a special fund specifically for this?
Yeah, we just announced last week a COVID emergency relief fund, specifically for those wounded who are at risk because of their particular situation and current pandemic.
So what is the situation there? How are they uniquely at risk? Obviously they can't, they're on the front, so it's not like they can self-isolate just because they're being shot at and attacked just like as if nothing had happened. But now on top of the terrible conditions that any soldier faces on the front, they've also got this pandemic to deal with. So, have you got people now like a special facility to quarantine or isolate them, or what are you doing?
So we have, for instance, wounded in Cherkasy region, Alexander Berezovski, who was supposed to go to a hospital for treatment, and he got a refusal just because the hospital right now at emergency state cannot accommodate him, but he still needs the treatment, and he still needs medication and a nurse coming and visiting him. It's a Cherkasy region,
right?
Alexander Berezovski I'm talking about.
Right.
And what's happening? His family has a wife and a kid, and they obviously scared. They even scared to let an assistant in, and now they need funds to buy medication themselves, and they need protection equipment like masks, so they can let let's say, a nurse go in and help them with treatment. So that family, the guy just cannot receive treatment he needs, and he was burned. Like 40% of his body was burned.
Oh.
So this is an emergency situation, and again, he's on jeopardy.
Oh dear. Is Ukraine able to get this equipment? Do they have a source for it? I know here in Canada, where there's a huge shortage of masks, for example. Has Ukraine got a source for this equipment?
Probably not. So what I hear from Chernobyl region, doctors don't have equipment, don't have enough protection PPE equipment for themselves. Doctors and nurses clinic. So often treating patients unprotected themselves. So situation is really critical.
Oh boy. So people can make a donation just directly, whatever they can afford, because a lot of people are out of work now and maybe don't have a whole lot to spare.
First of all, I'd say there's only one Ukraine, and we're talking about people who sacrificed their health, the well-being of their families, their lives to protect Ukraine. So we just should look at this support through this aspect. It's also happy of giving, especially during Easter time. I believe is a proper thing to do.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially with people in Ukraine, Easter is like the biggest, for believers, is the biggest Christian holiday. And like anywhere else in the world, we're going to be stuck at home as opposed to gathering together in a joyful celebration. So it's even more sad. And I think a lot of people are, while they're not at home, or they're at home, they're not at work, but still there's not that expenditure when you're out and about. You're going to work. There are expenses, your fuel, if you're driving or transit, or lunch is out, things like that. So look around for a few extra dollars to spare to help these people, like this wounded soldier his body is 40% burns, and yet he's also suffering from COVID-19, and he's got a family. While those of us here in North America, we're worried about how we're going to pay the bills, chances are we'll be able to, and we'll be alive after this pandemic is over. That may not be the case for people who are on the front, like this poor soldier that you just told us about in Cherkasy. So, Jean, we have spoken in the past many times. You shared a few stories like this, but as I mentioned when we started, that you are going to be coming on and speaking with us on a regular basis, at least once a month, perhaps twice. And you'll be speaking with me in English. You'll be speaking with Oksana in Ukrainian. So you'll be sharing these stories of these incredible patriots so people get an idea of what the reality is like on the ground for these people, and to have more of a connection and to understand what freedom is all about, what fighting for freedom is. Here in Canada, we take it for granted. In the Western world, we take it for granted. And it's dangerous to do something like that, isn't it? Because I guess Ukrainians took it for granted until Putin annexed Crimea and then invaded eastern Ukraine.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I mean, it took everybody by... Well, did it take everybody by surprise?
If we go to elder population, to those who remember times of war, maybe a Second World War, they may recall that the civilization was a kind of extreme situation, and all those values being relevant for them as well. So, yeah, we do take it for granted, and it's probably good because we want to live in peace and love. After all, if your country needs you, you should be there for it.
Absolutely. And even for those that are not born in Ukraine, even perhaps have no ties to Ukraine, but this is a fight for freedom. I think the rest of the world, they're focused on China right now. They're focused on the COVID-19 pandemic. But a lot of people don't understand what this war, Ukraine's fighting for freedom, not just for themselves, but really for the entire world. And this has been the case with Ukraine fighting for freedom for centuries. They've been warding off a worse evil that people just don't even understand. If Russia wins and conquers Ukraine again, it'll be bad for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us again the name of this hero that you told us about in Cherkasy.
Alexander Berezovski.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he volunteered to Frontline in 2015. His car he was in got a direct fire from enemy's line, and that basically brought him to the hospital with 40% of burns. And then a long story of treatment began, and he's not able to fully recover. He lives in a village, and he used to be a tractor driver, essentially mechanics and driver, and he's not able even hold the steering wheel now.
Oh, dear. How old is he?
He's like a 35-year-old. He has a 10-year-old kid.
Will he, with proper treatment, would he have a full recovery? Do you think be able to have a more or less normal life?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, with proper treatment, yes, for sure.
But he's not getting proper treatment right now.
He's not getting proper treatment. He lives in a village, which makes it even more challenging to get proper treatment, but also funds and pandemic situation are on its way.
So what kind of help would he be getting, and what would it cost? Do you know?
It's something we can easily find out, as we have volunteers who's constantly in touch with Alexander and his wife, Lesia. So we can definitely find out any needed or missing information.
Okay, this is the beauty of Ukraine War Amps, and you're in touch with the people there. It's not just some agency depositing cash into an account.
No, we are in direct touch with the family, of course.
And so will the donors be.
Yes, we encourage people, because we call it a transparent bridge. That's what we do. We do build a bridge between a caring person in the world and our Ukrainian hero and his family.
Fantastic. Well, Jean, we'll look forward to hearing the progress and hopefully full recovery of Alexander, as well as about others who are in dire need of our assistance. So thank you, Jean, for telling us about Alexander and about the great work that you're doing. And for people who want to contact you and get on board and help out with a donation of any amount, how would they reach you?
We can be easily reached through our Facebook community group, Ukraine War Amps community group, also ukrainewaramps.ca and ukrainewaramps@gmail.com. Again, we are on Instagram and Twitter, so you can just go there and find Ukraine War Amps.
Okay, so social media is a place to find you as well. You have a website, it's ukrainewaramps.ca, correct?
Correct.
And soon you'll have a podcast of your own as well. I think our features that we do, your series here on Nash Holos, you'll be offering as a podcast, hopefully, in the near future. We'll help you get that set up so that people can simply subscribe to the podcast, get notifications when there's a new episode, and just keep in touch with what you are doing, and just get familiar with some of the people that you're helping, and just kind of, keep on top of things that way as well.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, okay. Okay, Jean, so thank you so much. We will be back. After this interview, we'll be setting up a regular series. You'll be telling us a little bit more in detail about people like Alexander and their situation. And I'm not sure exactly how we're going to connect and go forward, but we'll start, first of all, with sharing the story, and that's always the most important thing. So So thank you so much, Gene.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you so much.
And also, just one more thing before you go. It's not like you don't have enough to do with Ukraine War Amps, and now you're doing Ukrainian language lessons.
Yes, yeah. Just, for those who are curious, welcome to join our lessons. Again, we announce on our Facebook page. It's basically published in YouTube on our Ukraine War Amps channel, and Facebook has it all as well.
Okay, so for those who want to brush up on their Ukrainian or learn a little bit and even be able to speak half Napil, which most people do nowadays, and that's again follow Ukraine War Amps on Facebook, Twitter, all social media, Instagram as well. Stay in touch here at Nash Holos, and we'll be giving you details about their upcoming podcast as well as just keep in touch here, and Gene will be making a regular appearance now here on Nash Holos. So thank you again, Gene. Good luck with your work. Godspeed to you and all the heroes that you're helping. Thank you so much for doing this incredibly critical work to not only save lives, but to save freedom around the world.
Thank you.
Every day, more Ukrainian soldiers are killed or wounded by Russian invaders. You can help wounded heroes by joining the Adopt a Soldier program of registered charity Ukraine War Amps. A small monthly donation goes very far for medical services and living expenses and creates a special bond between you and a wounded hero. 100% of your contribution goes to the soldier. Please, adopt a soldier today. Visit ukrainewaramps.ca or find us on Facebook.
Через болото, подай рученьку, моє золото, подай рученьку.
the inimicable Mickey and Bunny with Sonce Nizenko, Sunset, and before them, the Female Beat with the Soldier's Foxtrot. You've been listening to Nash Holos Ukrainian Roots Radio, our flagship show in Vancouver here on AM 1320 CHMB and in international syndication on PCJ Radio International. In between broadcasts, please visit us online at www.nashholos.com to find transcripts and archived audio files, a link to the Nash Holos podcast, and information about the show, as well as a link to our Patreon site. And that, again, is all at www.nashholos.com. На жаль, ми вже скінчили нашу програму, вже час додому сказати до побачення, але перед тим я хочу залишити вас такими словами мудрості. Плачем бідному не поможеш. And our proverb of the week translates as, your tears won't help the poor. And with that, we've come to the end of our program, so we'll wrap it up with the Canadian Rhythm Masters from Winnipeg and St. Andrew's Polka. I'm Pavlina on behalf of all of us here at Nash Holos and AM 1320. Thanks for listening and dobranoc! Nash Holos now has a Patreon site, and I hope as a listener you'll consider supporting the show with a donation there. Nash Holos is not funded by government and has no corporate financing, so as little as $1 a month will make a huge difference. Your money will be put to good use to help cover the myriad costs of keeping a show like this online and on the air. So please check out our Patreon page. There are links everywhere on the Nash Holos website, www.nashholos.com, or just go to patreon.com and search for Nash Holos. Щиро дякую.